All right, so we're back with another episode of Feel Free, the only podcast that'll tell you to chase your dreams and call you out on all your bullshit, myself included. Today I am joined by Robbie and Justin over at the Golden Hour Adventures podcast, here to talk about running and wellness and honestly just having a good-ass time and living life to the fullest. So how you guys doing today?
Good.
Good.
You said running like that's a bad thing. You're like, and we're talking about running.
I mean, I'll be honest, my brother loves running and my buddy Brandon loves running. He was just here this weekend. I only like running as if I'm putting a basketball in a hoop. Can't really say I'm a big fan outside, but that's why I got you guys on here to talk about it instead. So I met Robbie on the recovery podcast, Through the Glass Recovery. We talked about, our take on sobriety and stuff. And then when I spoke on the Golden Hour Adventures, Justin was on that podcast too. I follow him on Instagram, running in Stash, right, with all the funny reels of you outside and shit. They're pretty funny.
Yeah, out there freezing my ass off and running in negative 38, negative 40 degree weather. Though luckily I'm glad it's over now. But yeah, so just like to have a good time with it. That's for sure.
Of course. So I wanted to ask both of you, why running is such an important part of your identity now? Because you guys both come from different backgrounds, but it seems you've come together to love this activity so much, right?
Robbie, I'll let you go. I'm long-winded.
Well, I've fought the battle of identifying as a runner on and off for quite a few years now. Right now I'm taking a little break. I haven't ran in 3 weeks. The van has been everything I've been doing. It's been keeping me busy. And our podcast, of course, and work. I find when I start identifying as a runner, my ego gets in the way. So I always have to take a step back and just take a break. I love to run an adventure, just to go out and be outside and find solitude and take in the views. In the past, I was the guy that always had to be the top of the hill first or running as fast as I could. And I fell into a little place that I didn't like. So I kind of stepped away from running with groups and was running by myself. But then I would put that battle on myself. And it still just kind of played out, trying to always run fast and looking at my time and all this other stuff. Then I took a bigger break and started doing a lot more hiking and got on the bike more and then started going and doing. I was living in Colorado at the time, so I would just go climb mountains and camp and hang out. So it's been in this on and off battle of identifying as a runner. And, last year I struggled with it quite a bit. And now I just like to call myself an adventurer. I haven't ran any races. I don't have any races planned. Well, I have one kind of planned, but it's more of a fun thing to go help out and do some stuff. But I just like to get out in the mountains and find peace.
Yeah, being out in nature like that is priceless, honestly.
I guess it's my turn.
I was gonna say, so Robbie's in South Dakota, right? And
yep.
Justin, you're in Alaska, so you guys have a lot of nature out there. Justin, you actually were a bodybuilder, is that right? Before you got into the running thing?
I was. I wouldn't say I was the type of bodybuilder that got on a stage and competed. I tried to at one point. I just never could get the last. And if you in the bodybuilding world, you understand getting that last couple pounds off. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. Not that I wasn't disciplined. It just I ran out of time, and so that was my only attempt really with competing. Was 1 year I really tried to drop the weight and try to do it, but I grew up in high school lifting weights. I started lifting weights when I was young, 14, 15, 16 years old. Playing football, and I'm originally from Texas, so playing football in Texas, all you Texans out there will definitely understand the football is life, you know, and so small town shuts down when it's Friday night. And so, you know, just getting bigger through high school, and then, you know, joining the military and continuing on lifting weights. And it was just something that I really enjoyed and still do enjoy. I got bored with it, you know, doing it for so many years. I got bored, and I tried to find something that was, you know, different, basically. You know, that's kind of when the CrossFit thing was starting to spin up. And yeah, I jumped into that bandwagon for about 20 seconds and realized that this is not for me. And so I was kind of off and on, you know, doing the lifting thing and trying to get stronger. I mean, at my biggest weight, you know, I probably weigh like 170 now, which is for a runner still kind of a bigger, you know, 5'8", 170 is still kind of big. But at my heaviest lifting wise, I was 230 pounds. I was squatting 550 pounds, deadlifting 6 something, and bench pressed, I think 335, 350, something like that. So I was a stud. I was huge, strong. I loved it. I loved every bit of it. But I couldn't bend down to tie my shoes without being out of breath. So, you know, that quickly went away. But so anyway, I just tried to find something that was enjoyable. And I talked to a guy who was a semi-pro, sub-elite triathlete, and they had this half marathon coming up. And I was like, hey man, how quick could run this half marathon, thinking I'd run it the next year, because it's, you know, a month away. And he's like, dude, you can totally run it right now. So I ran that half marathon, and from there on out, I was hooked. Running is 100% my identity. But I like to have fun with it, and I'm all about having fun. I don't give a shit about my pace. I don't care. I don't care to be the last guy up the hill. I don't care about, you know, going out and, you know, trying to set pace for the group that you're running with. I'm all about going to the run, whether it be with people, by myself, and just having a good time out there. And I think that having that mentality from the get-go has provided me the longevity of running. And I've probably been running very consistently since like 2017. And so, you know, I've always had that mentality. I was very like competitive in my lifting, and I wanted to get as strong as I possibly could, and, you know, as big as I possibly could. But I don't know, something flipped when I was, you know, started running, and it's just like, I just want to do this and just have fun with it. And so, you know, I always say that my claim to fame is the back of the pack, even though I'm maybe a little bit faster than that. But it's just, that's where you know, it's the party pace. That's where the party pace is at. And so, I just do it for the enjoyment of it, and getting out in nature, and, you know, meeting people that also like to enjoy running. And so, yeah, it's never really been a serious thing for me, even though I do serious races and I go out and do big things. It's never really been serious for me. And I think that's, you know, part of the reason why I've not gotten bored yet. But
It's probably a big reason on why it's such an important part of your life, though. I mean, if you're not stressing about loving something, you know, if you enjoy every second of it and you're not worried about it, you know, you're more likely to just do it because you love it, you know?
yeah, for sure. I don't love speed work. I still do it, but I don't love speed work. So that's the only thing. If I get rid of speed work but still get faster, I'd be happy. I don't think that exists though. So you got to kind of do both. Like, so there's some torture in there, I guess.
Right. So you go both like kind of specialize in different types of running, I'd say. I mean, Justin, you do the ultra marathons. I know Robbie runs some races sometimes. Robbie, you're mostly into like just hiking and being out in nature, and almost like challenging yourself, right? And as Justin was saying, he more just does it because he enjoys it. You know, it's not too serious, but he loves it. Do you guys train differently? Do you guys have different workout routines or wellness things that you do to help you out there?
I mean, when I train for races, I take the race pretty serious, and, you know, I have a training block, whatever that may be, depending on the distance of the race. I dial in my nutrition. I'll eat super clean. I'll usually go very low carb while I'm training, eating a lot of calories. Then I had a coach at a time, and Justin and I are both now coaches, run coaches. Oh, having a coach was just, accountability. So he planned all my workouts and my runs. It's, anywhere from 50, 60 miles a week of running. Usually on the weekends, they were big back-to-backs. Like to say 18 miles one day, the next could be 12 to 14 miles. Then it was really whatever race. I like mountain races, so those races, you need to do a lot of, we call it power hiking as fast as you can, because you can't run all the uphills. So I would do a lot of that, run the flats, the downs, and power hike up as fast as I could up the ups. Then I would really get kind of a spiritual too. I do a lot of meditation, a lot of breath work, and journaling. At the time, I would journal about my runs, how I felt, all that kind of stuff. But lately, since last year, I've been all over the place. Sobriety's taken over everything, so I put sobriety first. And when you put sobriety first, a lot of other things just kind of go by the wayside. And for me, it's been my nutrition and some other things like meditation and journaling. Like, even though in the sobriety world you should be doing that, but I've found that really hard to do since I've been sober. I just love being sober, so that makes me happy, and I'm joyous all the time. Not all the time, of course. I have some bad days, but I noticed when I was not sober and during those big training blocks, everything would affect me because of my substance abuse. So I would use the meditation and the journaling kind of to negate those, negative thoughts or emotions I was having, because I didn't know how to deal with them. I would just use to numb the pain for everything. And now that I'm not using anything to numb the pain and I can be present all the time, like I'm in my head the whole time, and I've learned patience and really how to like just work shit out. So last 2 years, all over the place. I do have some plans later this year, and I'll dial back my nutrition and training again. But as for now, I'm just living life.
It's a good way to do it, though. I mean, I'm also in recovery too, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Actually, last year I had some shit go down, and as I think I was calling Justin out for the fast food and the sugar when I was on your guys' podcast. And, I went on a bender in 2023 with cigars and ice cream and burritos and stuff. Granted, like, my sobriety always came first, but, I wasn't training. I wasn't worried about nutrition and the things I should have. So, but as long as, we hold our sobriety in the highest standard, life is way more worth living, I should say. So, and it seems like you got a new hobby with the van for more adventures, so that's always a plus too, right?
Yeah, it's taking up all my time. This morning I'm like, I should take the dogs out for a run. I'm like, looked out the window and saw that van sitting there, and I'm like, nope, I'm gonna go get in that hot box and get some stuff done.
Put in some work, right?
Yeah.
So Justin, you're running ultramarathons. Those are like 100 miles. What are your training blocks like?
Yeah, I also have a coach. I recently just did a coaching swap. I was with the coach for about 2.5 years, and nothing bad to say. Just it was time to go. It was just time for a change, and so picked up a new one. Excited to get kind of dive deep into this one for the training block for the summer. I'm a very goal oriented type of person. I need to see a goal in front of me to not necessarily go do the things, but I'll get lazy and just be like, oh, I'll go for a 3-mile run, go for a 4-mile run when I know I should be doing more. So I like having a coach for that accountability. Being a coach myself, I can coach myself, but I don't like to. And so, because if I'm programming my own stuff, then I'm not going to do it. Right. So like, oh, my coach is an idiot. He can, he can just, we can figure that out later. But so I like having a coach for accountability. So I keep one long-term, and just, I enjoy the structure of having plans and having a goal. And so I usually always have something on the books, whether it be it's usually an ultra marathon, something in the 100K to 100-mile range. And then, I build myself up and run the race and then bring myself down and then probably usually right back up because I usually have another one pretty quickly on the book. So this year is kind of weird because I ran my first winter ultra, which is it's a self-supported style run. So you carry everything you need. It's out in the wilderness. There's no aid for 20 plus miles. You typically in an ultra marathon, you can have a crew that goes with you. Usually that's my wife. She wasn't allowed on the course. Typically you can have someone who runs with you after, about 50 miles, you can have someone that runs with you. You weren't able to have that on this race. So it was totally a different style of ultra. I had run 3 100-milers prior to this one, and this one was also a 100-miler, but I wanted to test my mind and see where my mind was. And so this was a big mind test, I guess, to see where I'm mentally strong enough to be able to do this by myself, essentially. So, and so I did that, and now I'm flipping around and I'm not running another one, for quite a while. So, I do have one on the books, but it's a little bit of ways out. So, so I kind of got a down summer, I guess, just to kind of chill, but also, get some good miles in and stuff like that. But yeah, I would say, for the most part, any ultra marathoner, myself and Robbie, once we have something on the books, our plans are pretty structured. Some people may go like higher volume, lower intensity, or higher intensity, lower volume. It just kind of depends on what works for the right person, and so I typically work better when I do a higher volume and lower intensity. That usually typically works better for me, but it's kind of all in the person what works better. I mean, you can run 100-miler off 40-mile weeks, but you're going to be limping at the end.
Right. I mean, we are only human. You got to take your body into consideration. My brother is training for the 800-meter right now. Because he was training as a mile runner. He got his mile time down to like 4 minutes and 5 seconds, and now he's switching up to go to the 800. Yeah, he's hauling ass right now. It's crazy.
I run like 30 hours, and thinking about running a 4-minute mile just disgusts me.
Me too.
Like, you're only out there for 4 minutes, but it's like, that's pure hell for 4 minutes. Like, nah, I'm good.
I've seen his races, and to watch, I mean, it's only 4 times around the track too, and you're just like watching him go by and you're like, holy shit, he's going so fast. What the hell? But yeah, he had a coach too, help him with his training blocks as well. I personally, I don't do anything too seriously, but I've had to take my training more seriously because as we get older, we get hurt more often, so just necessary precautions with stretching and certain things like that. When you guys are running, I wanted to ask, do you guys have a favorite type of food that you eat on the trail?
Well, during a race, like the aid stations, especially in the longer distances, you could say 50 to 100 miles, they're like buffets. And depending on the race and the organization, there'll be hot food, cold food, like the standard food and aid stations, like potato chips, M&Ms, pretzels, water, then whoever the sponsor is for their sports drink. There'll be a few other things, but when you get into the longer distances and you're going through the night, they'll have warm food. A lot of time there's bacon, hot soups, ramen, stuff like
Pancakes.
that. pancakes,
I
sausage.
love pancakes. I don't know why. When they're out there, that's the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah, you take a piece of bacon, then you put syrup on it, then you wrap the pancake around it, eat that. So I guess my favorite like type of candy, like what I use on my long adventures, is like gummy candy. So like Swedish Fish, gummy bears. Those are probably my go-tos for my favorite food. And the longer stuff, really salty, like bacon is awesome. Sausage. What else do I like? I don't know. For me, I got a rock gut, so I can pretty much eat anything. Other people have to really pay attention to what they're eating. Luckily, I can eat anything. But I would say my go-to is candy, like gummy candy.
Hell yeah.
I'm the direct opposite. I can't eat candy. I can for like a shorter run, let's call it 10 miles and under. I can eat candy and stuff like that. But when I start going long, that sugar starts to play with me. I can't do it. I have to be really structured in my run nutrition. And so I eat a lot, but I have to be very careful of what I eat. I do more liquid nutrition, and I've moved to that probably within the last year, moving to liquid nutrition. It's this stuff called cluster dextrin. It's just a mixture of sugars, but it's weird. I say sugar, you would think it'd be real sweet, but it's not. It's just kind of I don't know. I don't actually know what it is, but it was just, I was told to get it by somebody who I I trust a lot. And so I tried it and it worked. And once something works, I stick with it. I also use gels. I use Spring Energy gels, which is, some brand, but they're pretty high carb and they're pretty tasty, and I can live off of them when nothing else is working. And so, there's different tricks when your stomach starts to turn to, play around and figure stuff out. But I have to be real careful in what I put in, because I have been known to throw up at miles 30.
Yeah, I bet that sucks though.
I have
You just
not
got to
thrown
keep
up
moving.
once.
You haven't thrown
Honestly,
up?
yeah, it's not good.
Let's see. I actually rolled my ankle 2 weeks ago in the gym while I'm hooping, and I don't know. I knew it was coming too, because I had literally ate 2 full bowls of ramen that my fiance made. I just slammed them, and then I'm like, I'm gonna go play basketball. And I don't know. I'm just out on the court, and I'm feeling super sluggish. I'm like, damn, dude, something's fucked up right now, And then of course, like, I'm like trailing back to get a ball, and my energy just wasn't right, and I rolled my ankle over somebody who was standing behind me. I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't have ate that much before going out there,
I love ramen. That's like a big go-to for me, is ramen. I've lived off ramen for plenty of miles, because that was all that was working.
I mean, it's got the carbs and the sugar in it too, right?
Yeah, the salts for sure.
Yeah, salt.
Yeah, a lot of salt. For me, ramen's one of the ones I can't do. I can drink the broth, but for some reason I can't do ramen. I can do
Robbie,
a little
actually,
bit.
didn't you get sick at the last one we were at together and eating ramen?
Yeah, I was eating ramen every 8 miles, and yeah, I wasn't. At one point, I was like, I can't do any more ramen.
Switching over to the candy.
I've had my stomach. Yeah, mostly I'll do gels too, and I also use that cluster dextrin. For me, I've always when I run, I always start fasted, so I just wake up and go. I don't like anything in my stomach when I start running. Then I like to figure out as I go. A lot of people don't like to do that because there's this thing called bonking. It's when you run out of sugar, your stored sugar. Depending on the person, it's anywhere from 90 minutes to a little over, up to 2 hours. And it really depends on the intensity. If you're not using fat for fuel, you're using sugar, or you're using both, and your muscles only store so much. So a lot of people don't like to play that game, so they'll eat before, but I've always just been the type to just go out fasted, and especially if I'm in a training block, I always do my runs in the morning. So as soon as I get up, I'll pound some coffee, then I'll go, then I'll just, a lot of people in the ultra world, we have like a time limit when we need to eat. Depending, it's either half hour or hour, you take a gel or you drink something, but with this clusteredection, we can just sip on it. And it's about, Justin and I both mix 2 scoops in our flask, and that's about 64-ish, I think it is, grams of carbohydrates. So we'll just try to drink one of those an hour, then supplement if we need more, or however we're feeling. So I'm a little opposite of a lot of people. I run fasted, then figure it out as I go. Sometimes it doesn't work. Justin will get the famous text message, epic bonk going on right now.
Yeah, those are the best.
I forgot to mention one thing, that we had a lady on our podcast, and this is it's been around for a while, but Pop-Tarts. Those are like one of my go-tos. I always have a couple Pop-Tarts in my race pack with me. But now I usually just use those for emergencies, because they'll bring you back from a bonk within minutes, and you're feeling somewhat normal again. But
so wait. What's a bonk?
So it's when you run out of your stored glycogen and you have no sugar left. Then it depends how bad that bonk gets. Like of course your brain runs off sugar, right? Your body will start saving its sugar for your brain, and depending how long it's been without sugar, you can go into what's called a neurological bonk, where your body has shut all the sugar down and is only letting your brain get sugar. That means you're like bad, and you have no energy. Your stomach, lots of throwing up usually. You can barely move. Cramping if you're low on electrolytes. They usually go hand in hand. And it gets to the point where, have you ever seen like those triathlons or marathons where like the guys are crawling to the finish?
Yeah.
That's
it?
a bonk. They're bonking. So those are like, that's the neurological, where they just fall down and their body's just saving the last bit of sugar for their brain. You lose all control of your muscles, your bladder, your intestines. Yeah, it will just come out both ends depending how bad it is.
Fuck. Jeez.
Yeah. Typically, it's not typically that bad. Like, you can feel it coming on, and you know that it's coming, and you can pull yourself out of it. I mean, by eating a Pop-Tart will pull you out of it. It's not like you need to go to the emergency room. I mean, if it got that bad, yeah, maybe you need to go to the emergency room, but you can typically feel it coming on.
And prevent it.
And prevent it, yeah. Just by eating some sugar will prevent it. And so it's very easy to prevent. It's very easy to pull yourself out of. But
and like the main symptom is, we call them low points. Like, you'll just start feeling like complete shit. Like everything in the world's bad. You don't want to take another step. You hate your life.
Start
you
feeling
hate your
sorry
family.
for yourself.
Yeah, you just it's weird. And that's usually if you start having a down point, you know that like, oh, I'm low on sugar, so you'll take a gel or eat a Pop-Tart or whatever you got with you. Especially on these longer distances, when the aid station, sometimes in 100 miles, they're 10 miles apart. And if you're in the middle of the mountains, there's no one coming to rescue you. Like either a helicopter, or you sit there and you figure it out. So in the ultras, a lot of people will carry their food, especially if you have like, Justin uses a spring. So he always has enough spring with him to make sure he makes it to the next aid station. A lot of beginners don't know where to play that game, so they're figuring it out. Then they might get stuck at mile 5 and they got another 5 miles to go and they don't have any food on them. Or the food, we like to make jokes because gels, after a while, as soon as you taste a gel, you'll start wanting to throw up. I don't know if you've ever had a gel. They're like consistency of glue.
Oh God, no, that sounds
Some
terrible.
of them are. Some of them aren't that. Like the ones that I use aren't that bad, but some of the goo brand of gel, which is by far, in my opinion, the worst. Well, Hammer's still there, but
Yeah, Hammer. See, and I like the goo brand, but and there's nothing worse pulling a warm gel out of your race vest and
yeah.
It
Yeah.
sounds fucking nasty.
yeah. That's why I like the gummy candy because it always tastes good. You just got to chew on it.
Yeah, that's true. So, you guys got any funny or scary stories on the trail or on a run?
I got a hilarious one. My first 100-miler, I had hit the 52-mile turnaround. So turning around probably about mile, let's call it mile 60. So it's at night. It's probably, I don't know, call it midnight, 2 a.m., something like that. I got a shit bad. I'm a mile from the aid station where there's bathrooms, but I'm not going to be able to make it. There's no way. I have a pacer. I told you earlier, pacers are someone who just jumps in with you and runs with you to kind of keep you alive through the night and through the rest of the race. Because, you know, those glycogen stores get harder and harder to feel as you've been running for that long of period, right? And so you're not wanting to eat as much. So it's kind of a nice thing to have a pacer there with you just to help you out, remind you to eat, because you become a toddler after mile 50, you become a toddler. And so reminding you to eat, reminding you to drink, to keep running, you know, that pacer just has a really valuable role early on in your ultra career. Anyway, I have my pacer with me and I'm like, dude, I gotta take a shit. This is not gonna be good. And so it's night, so I'm good, right? I find this tree. I take my pack off because I have my toilet paper in my pack, something that all trail runners should carry on them if they don't already. So I got my toilet paper. I took my pack off. I lay it to the side. I grab my toilet paper, lay it to the side, do my business, and I take care of whatever I need to take care of. Put my pack back on, and I'm running down the trail, and I'm like, damn, what is that smell? Well, I thought that I had put my pack far enough away. I totally had not, and I literally just shit all over my pack.
Oh my God.
And this is mile 60, right? So for 40 more miles, and we're 40 miles in a 100-miler is a long time, especially your first one. I smelled shit for that long period of time. And we're talking 12, 18 hours of smelling your own shit. And there's only so much that you can clean off, right? Because
Right.
like we cleaned it off when I got to the aid station, but at the same time, it's like, dude, it's still there.
Holy shit.
So yeah, my first 100-miler, I shit on my pack. So yeah,
I'll
never forget that.
How long does it take to run the last 40 miles? Usually.
Well, they tell you that the race doesn't start until about mile 60, mile 70. So it took me a long time. Yeah, I was pretty trashed by mile 70. And so I kind of like death marched it in, which is, we were talking about power hiking earlier. So that power hiking usually is about anywhere between a 15 to 20 minute mile, just like fast hiking, right? And so I practiced that because there's a point in the race where your legs don't want to move anymore, and you can rely back onto that power hiking. And so I power hiked for the last 30 miles. So I think it was an 11-hour time frame that it took me to go 30 miles. But I still had, this was mile 60-ish that I did that. So, I still had to get to mile 70. So that probably took another couple hours. So probably 15 hours, I would say, that took. But yeah, it was a disaster.
The smelly 15 hours right there.
But I've been, as far as scary, I've been screamed at by mountain lions in the middle of the night, knowing that they're very close. Luckily, I've always been with people, so I wasn't too worried about it. But yeah, I've been screamed at by mountain lions. Up here in Alaska, I haven't had a bear encounter, knock on some wood, but I've had plenty of moose encounters, which I think are worse than a bear. Like if you see a bear, usually they probably just take off and go there, do their own thing. But moose want to stand their ground, and I've had to turn around on a trail and go back the way I came because there's moose just standing in the trail and they were not moving. And I'm not going to challenge them.
No, you don't fuck with moose, man. Holy
Yeah.
shit! No.
So I've seen tons of snakes. Robbie actually almost stepped on a snake one time when we were running together, and it like 4 people ran by it and it didn't do anything. And then when Robbie runs by it, it starts rattling. I don't know. Did it strike at you too, Robbie, or what?
No, I just almost stepped on the damn thing.
That thing was a monster.
It was a monster.
But yeah, you name it, animal encounters, and then we can go into hallucinations too if you want to go down that route.
I was actually interested in asking about some hallucination stories, honestly.
Yeah, I had in that same race, I was bonking, but I was at a livable bonk, if that makes sense. I was taking enough sugar to keep me going, but not enough of where I should have had. I was looking for this aid station. It was about 6 miles from one aid station to the other, and I was in search of it. And this is in the middle of the day, right? Probably noon. And I'm like, there's the aid station. And my pacer's like, I don't see anything. I'm like, dude, do you not see that Nissan Xterra right there? That's the aid station. And then when we got up to it, of course, it was just a rock. But to this day, I swear to you that there was a Nissan Xterra right there. That's my only one that's kind of like, that's a huge hallucination. You'll be running and you'll see a stick or a log that kind of looks like something, and you'll like get scared, like, damn, what was that? But like a rock will look like a I don't know, a bear or something. It just kind of scares you, freaks you out. But I'm sure Robbie's been running ultra since 2011, so I know he's got a bunch more of hallucinations. But your brain does some fascinating things after 24 hours of running.
We were going to climb. It was in Colorado, and we were going to go climb a couple 14ers, and the 14ers, they're like a half mile apart. You just have to go down through a saddle, then go back up to the next one. So it was me, this lady, and our 4 dogs. She had 2. I had my 2. She had a Belgian Malinois and a German Shepherd. Then I had my Australian Kettle Dog and some kind of crazy mutt, high energy dog that was ridiculous. So we left the trailhead. We get up to the summit. It was a full moon. That's why we were out there. This is at night too, so let me put that out there. We started about 9 o'clock at night. Got up to the summit. Decided not to go hit the other summit. We're coming back down to the trailhead, and like we're close enough to see the car. That's how close we are. Then the lady I was with, like, where did my dog go? I'm like, I don't know. And this was her Belgian Malinois. I'm like, I don't know. So we started looking for her dog. And at this point, I'm like, I'm just going to go put my stuff down at the car, then I'll come back and help you. So I go put my stuff down at the car, then we're wandering around looking for the dog. And there was this cattle guard that we had to go over. And her dogs were scared to go over cattle guard. So we thought that at this point, the dog was just scared to go over the cattle guard. So who knows where it was. So about 30 minutes later, she finally comes back with her dog. I'm just back at camp hanging out at the truck. I'm like, oh, found your dog. She was like all freaked out about it. And I had a rooftop tent on top of my Tacoma. And on my Tacoma I had a shell. So all the dogs were in the bed of the truck in the shell. So we're asleep. Then I get woken up by the dogs like making this weird, like crazy noise I've never heard my dogs make. Her dogs were doing the same thing. They're like barking and whining, and you could imagine 4 dogs in the bed of a Tacoma. The tent was just like rocking back and forth, and it was pretty crazy. And so I always sleep with the gun up there in the mountain. So I grabbed my gun because I was like, I didn't know if it was a person, because this campground's pretty heavily populated with, it's right on the Colorado Trail. So you'll get like a lot of through hikers. It's a nice grassy place to camp. So I was like, what the hell's going on? Then plus you never know where you're going to run into at a trailhead in Colorado. So I sit up, grab my gun, and then I hear this screaming. I'm like, what is going on? Dogs just like they're scared. Like at this point, they're like doing the scared whine and bunch of commotion. And I hear the scream, and it's right next to my truck. And I'm like, what the heck is this? Then it keeps going and keeps going. And then finally, I realize it's a mountain lion. So I'm like, so I opened the zipper a little bit on the thing, and I started shining a light on there. I never saw the mountain lion, but it was definitely like right at my truck, trying to get to the dogs. Then we finally realized that her dog had smelt that mountain lion somewhere close by and was going looking for the mountain lion. Because the mountain lions in Colorado, they're at the trailheads, up at the 14ers. They'll kind of hang around. They're not as scared as people as, like, probably in Alaska and here in South Dakota, where they don't see people often. Up there, the mountain lions see people every single day, if not all day long. They'll see people out on the trails, especially if, you know, they're in their area and they won't move from their area because there's so many mountain lions that, you know, they have their little area and they're not going to go into another mountain lion area to take over that area. So we didn't sleep for the rest of the night, pretty much, can tell you that, because
No, fuck
but
that.
I've heard mountain lions scream before, but this one, like right next to the truck and the dogs and everything else, was just, it was crazy. And I mean, I've done tons of tent camping in that area too, and I could only imagine having my dogs in the tent and that mountain lion right there, but that didn't happen. Hallucinations. I've had some good ones, and mine was like Justin's. I thought there was an aid station there. It was in the middle of the night, and I kept seeing this light, and I'm like, there's the aid station, there's the aid station, we're almost there. And we kept going, and the light never got closer. Finally realized it was a star.
Oh, shit.
But I was just hallucinating that it was a aid station. And a lot of times in these 100-mile races, if you're at a pretty popular one or a good one where they're got a good aid station going, they're playing music. So you can hear the music from a long time farther, you know, far away. And I was like, I can hear music. There's the aid station. And the person I was with, like, no, there's nothing there. Never found the aid station. Then
See some weird stuff out in the mountains when you're out there for a long period of time.
Then I was pacing a guy at the same race Justin was talking about his hallucination. And there's a section where you get down by the river. And the river, if it's raging, is really loud. Like, you can't have a conversation. The river's so loud. It's a pretty big river. And we were in that section, and it's really rocky, and it's pretty nasty terrain right there. It's the middle of the night. And we're going, and the guy I was pacing was like seeing all kinds of stuff, like seeing people in the trees, ninjas, you name it, was just seeing weird stuff in the trees. And he was like, when you're having those hallucinations, like Justin was saying, like, you really think they're there. Like, you see it. So he kept seeing this stuff. Then a lot of times pacers will just laugh, or at some point they're just like, whatever, man, you're not seeing anything, and just keep going, right? Well, we were coming around this bend, and there was this guy laying on the ground taking a nap. Sometimes people during these hundreds will just take a dirt nap. They get tired and take a 5-10 minute nap, maybe a minute, whatever. So he's laying down on the ground. He's off the trail. And the guy I was pacing runs up to him and was like, "Are you all right, man? You okay? Do you need help out of here?" And he woke the guy up. And I'm like, "Hey, he's taking a nap." "No, he's there's something wrong with him." And he's standing over the guy, like asking him all these questions, because he's been seeing people in the trees, right? So he actually sees someone, so he thinks there's like an emergency. And after a couple minutes, the guy's like, "No, I'm just taking a nap." He's like, "No, you need help. I'm gonna go get help." And we're in the middle of nowhere. There's like no help around, even if he did need help. And then finally, the guy's like sat up and got kind of angry. He's like, "I'm taking a nap." And then I grabbed my runner, like, "We got to go. Like, this guy's okay." then we left, and he wouldn't stop talking about how the guy needed help for, I don't know, a couple miles. And I kept telling him, like, the guy was just taking a nap. And it was just this, since he'd been seeing people in the trees. I don't know. I kept trying to ask him, like, what's your problem? But he was, at that point, being a toddler. Then I was like, let's just keep going. That's funny. Justin says a toddler because we do turn into toddlers. Like, you forget to eat. Like, you'll just be walking down the trail. A lot of time you'll be sleepwalking. Like, you're walking, but you're asleep. And depending on the course, it could be pretty bad. That's why it's pretty important to have pacers on some of these. But I know Justin and I both have done probably miles of sleepwalking. Or then, like, you go, I don't remember the last mile. I don't even know where I'm at. Then you, like, wake up. Then you'll go right back to sleep again. Then you'll just keep on walking. And it gets kind of weird if, like, your pacer's in front of you and all you can see is their shining of their headlamp. Like, I know for me, like, I will just follow that headlamp, then it just puts me to sleep. So usually I like to have my pacers behind me if I do have a pacer. That way I'm leading the way and I'm trying to stay awake. But they're behind me, so if something does happen, they can keep me on the course. Anything funny? I'll have to think about that one. I've had quite a few funny things, but not as good as Justin's poop story.
I'm just gonna say that y'all are fucking nuts, and I love it for those stories.
Yeah, it's great.
Jesus. I took a week off of work a few weeks ago. My family has a cabin up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan in Iron Mountain, and I'm up there 2 weeks ago, and there's a national park up there called Piers Gorge, which I usually do some hiking up there. I think it's like a 4 to 6 mile trail, and I'll go up there and I'll wear like a weighted vest, just to make the hike a little more difficult and more of a workout. So I pull in there, there's nobody there. It's fucking dead. Like, it just snowed like 6 inches in the middle of March, and it's like a Tuesday, right? Because I'm up here on break, so everyone's at work. And there's no rangers, there's no other people, whatever. I park the car and I start walking. I'm like 20 minutes into the walk, and then I like look down, or I'm looking around, I'm like, damn, it's beautiful up here, man. This is really nice, Then I look down and I'm like, oh, that is a full bear print right there. And then I started looking around it and I'm like, oh, and those are cub prints too. And I'm like, oh shit. And I fucking turned around immediately. I get back in the car, text my fiance. I'm like, oh my God, I just saw a fucking bear print. She goes, did you snap a picture? And I'm like, no, I got the fuck out of there. What do you mean? What?
There was it's like the Super Bowl of 100-mile races. It's called Western States. One year, the guy that was in the lead came down, and there was a mom with her cubs in a tree. And I can't remember how long he waited. Do you remember, Justin? 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah, it was a long time.
He's in the lead, trying to set the course record of this race, and he can't go past this mom and this cub because they're right there, pretty much on the trail in this tree type thing. And I don't remember what happened, if he went around but it was just pretty funny because he was just, after he's like, I just had to sit there and wait because I couldn't do anything. I've run into moose on course in Utah on the trail. And usually the race director would be like, hey, there's moose on the course. If you got to go off course to go around them, that's okay. Because a lot of times if you leave the course, you have to come back where you left the course to finish the course. But he was like, if they're on the trail, you can go around them. If you can go around them. And there's been a couple times where we turn a corner and there's a big mom moose just standing there on the trail. And usually we'll just wander off 10, 20 feet off the course, then get back on the course after we pass. But
dude,
that's my extent with moose.
Dude, sometimes you just can't fuck with nature, man. Jeez.
Yeah, they don't play around.
No, hell no. So you guys said that you guys are. Oh, what were you gonna say, Robbie?
I was gonna say I got a good story about rattlesnakes. We were on this trail Then we got off the trail and we call it bushwhacking when there's no trail and you're just walking on the side hill. This was here in South Dakota in the Black Hills. Me and this other guy were trying to get back to the trail, and we know we just got to go up. So we're going up, and he's walking. Then all of a sudden he turns around and he's like flying at me. Like he is off the ground, and he had poles in his hands, and his poles are like coming at me, and he's screaming. And I'm like, what is going on? Then when he hit the ground, the hill was so steep, he just kept sliding down the hill. Then he finally stopped. Then he was trying to mutter snakes, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. So I help him get back up and make sure he's okay. And he's like, there's a bunch of rattlesnakes up there. I'm like, what? So we like go up there, and there was like this big rock. Then there was like this little flat spot on the bottom of the rock. Then I get closer and I can just hear a bunch of rattles. And we get up there, and it was a rattlesnake den, and there was like 8 rattlesnakes getting ready to den for the fall. And he was less than a foot from being in that den. That's why he turned around and jumped at me. Then we got to continue bushwhacking to get back to the trail, right? So now we're just super scared, like don't want to step on any logs, or we're looking under rocks. But that's probably the scaredest I've been, was rattlesnakes. That was we're like, can we just get back to the trail? We know there may be rattlesnakes, but we'll be okay. So I think there was 8 big rattlesnakes,
they were monsters,
getting ready to den. Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah, I actually used to have like snakes and lizards growing up and stuff, but just like, ball pythons and other things. I didn't have anything like fucking dangerous like a rattlesnake, Jeez. So you guys have coaches to help you with your running, and I was doing some snooping, and you guys also said, so you guys are also coaches for other people, right?
Yeah.
Nice. How is that experience? Well, first I wanted to ask Robbie, how has being in recovery also helped with coaching with running too?
So I got my personal training certificate back in 2010, and I was doing personal training. I was doing in-home personal training where I traveled to the client's house. Then I was also working for a college and running the gym where students and faculty could come into the gym and get free personal training. So at that point, I had right around 10 clients that I was dealing with. Then I just realized there was not, like, in-home personal training, you can make a lot of money, but it's really hard to get clients, right? It's like a special type of clientele that are willing to pay you that money to travel and all that stuff. So I kind of realized that I didn't want to work for a big box gym where they take all your money, really, essentially, as a personal trainer. And that's kind of when I got into ultra running. So I had some friends that were wanting to get into running, 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons. So I started working with them. Then when I was using, it was different from now. Like the biggest takeaway now with my clients is I'm a lot more present. I understand their needs a lot more. I pay attention to more about what they're doing and setting them up for success instead of failure. As a personal trainer, depending what their goal is, if they're looking for weight loss, there's a lot more that goes into that with nutrition and everything else. And like, I can't control what they eat. I can only control the time I'm with them. So it was totally different. But when you're an online run coach, you set up the plan depending if you do weeks or 2 weeks. I always used to do 2 weeks. Now I like to just do 1 week to have better check-in. I talk with clients a lot more, asking them how they're doing, if there's any issues. when before recovery, I could care less, tell you the truth. I would do my best, but I was always trying to fight my own issues by numbing the pain. So if, I got high, that was the last thing I wanted to do, was work with a client while I was high. It was just a buzzkill type thing. Unless they used to, then it was a little different story. Then it became, we were just both using. So there was that connection there. But then I knew I wasn't giving my best coaching at that time because we were just connected through our use. Now it's just a lot more present, a lot more patience, a lot more of understanding them as a human being. In the past, I didn't do that. It was just like, here's your program, email me next week, let me know how you did. Now it's more check-ins, more talking about goals, trying to structure goals better. A lot of people in the run world have these goals, and they'll set this goal that they really can't meet because they're trying to do something that they want to get, but you have to tell them, hey, this is a little outside your wheelhouse. You need to set a goal that you can actually reach, and if you do reach this goal, we can work on getting you to wherever you want to go. I know in the past people would tell me their goals, I'd just write it down. Okay, they want to do sub 24-hour 100 miler, and I'm like, you've never ran 100 before. Your goal should be first just finishing. So yeah, just a lot more patience, presence, treating them as a human, a lot more check-ins, working. One thing I've learned in recovery is we're all human. We all have stuff going on. And the mental side of running is a pretty big deal to some people. Like if you give them a workout and they don't hit their workout, they'll really be really hard on themselves. And then that will just lead to future destruction if they keep doing that. So now it's a lot more of that mental game, like, hey, it's okay, you didn't meet that. Let's work on it from here. But talking them back into their normal selves and not let everything run away from them when they don't do what they want to do.
Nice. Yeah, that was a good answer. Justin, how is your coaching going for you?
Yeah, mine's not as good as Robbie's. Robbie hit on a point that I'd like to bring up further. Running is a very comparison sport. So you see a lot of what other people are doing, and you want to imitate or do what they're doing. And and I'm sure that happens in every sport, but running is a solo sport, right? I mean, you have people that help you out along the way, but in the end, you're the one putting one foot in front of the other. And so you always see people wanting to do this and do that because someone else did this and did that. And so, running 100-miler it's a huge achievement, right? And everybody who is an up-and-coming ultramarathoner wants to run 100-miler because that's what, so-and-so has done. And, you've ran this many, you've run that many, anybody can do it type thing. And it's like, but we need to take baby steps, because running 100-miler is it's a big achievement, but it's also a huge undertaking, and in the amount of time that it takes to train for it, and the amount of sacrifice that you have to give to your job. Well, not maybe necessarily your job, but you have to give sacrifices to your family, and there's a lot that you have to sacrifice to be able to train and perform at the level that you need to complete a 100-miler. And so in saying that, like, I do the same thing as Robbie, like, hey, you've never even run a 50K. Like, let's slow down a little bit. Let's build you up to where you need to be. But I believe in communication. So I'm an online coach essentially, but all my athletes have my cell phone number. I'm there for them 24/7. They text me all the time, and we set up calls. whether it be quarterly or monthly, it's like communication is huge, and that's really the only way that the online coaching thing works. But yeah, I would say a different style of coach because, I mean, if you look at my records, I'm not fast. I don't claim to be fast. I am what I've told you in the past, the back of the pack, the mid to back to pack type person. And so, but I know how to suffer. I know how to get the job done. And so that's a lot of what my clients and my athletes are they're just someone who has a family that wants to achieve the status of being an ultra marathoner, and someone who works full time, who has a family, can help them get there. And so that's my approach to it. It's like, I understand if you can't make that run this weekend because your son's playing a baseball tournament. I get it. Things come up. Like, don't sacrifice your life to run this race. We can get around it. We can mold around it. And so, the communication is huge. But yeah, I do it because I love seeing people finish their goals and set their mind to something and complete it. And that's the coolest thing to me. And I've actually had the pleasure of being at a couple races where my athletes have finished. And so that's really cool to me. But yeah, that's why I do it. I could care less about anything else, as far as coaching. It's a lot of fun to see your athletes achieve their goals.
Yeah, being a part of something like that is it's a crazy experience to see other people achieve their goals. It's it's a beautiful moment, honestly, because I think we also like put ourselves in their shoes too, because we remember when we hadn't done something and the first time we completed something, we're like, wow, this feels great. And then you help other people do that exact same thing. You vicariously live through them. You're like, oh, I'm doing it again,
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome.
For sure.
So I think we had a really good conversation. We've touched on a lot of points. You guys have made me laugh, especially, and I know my listeners are going to laugh their ass off as well. So that's fucking awesome. Do you guys want to talk about your podcast for a little bit? Do a little ad, tell us what to look forward to in that for anyone who listens to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Always down to plug Golden Hour Adventures. So, Robbie and I came together and just on a run one day, we're talking about podcasting, and I said that I'd always wanted to do a podcast, and he was like, yeah, me too. And so in my kitchen at the table, we wrote down what we wanted to have as our slogan I'll go ahead and say it, with the help of my wife. But yeah, we set up our slogan. We had some people do some art for us and some songs, and we started recording this guy. And we've been going about 1.5 years, and we drop a podcast every single week. We are a running podcast, I'll go ahead and admit it. But we like to feature different types of genres of adventuring. So we've had hikers, hunters, authors, professional bronc riders. What else am I missing, Robbie? There's a bunch of different stuff, but our goal was to feature the everyday athlete. And so, I think we've had like maybe 1 or 2 elite runners on, but for the most part, they've been just everyday people with a family that get out and do crazy cool things. And so, it's been a lot of fun. And I can't wait to see where it goes, to be honest with you.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, when Justin and I thought about this, the golden hour is the last hour of an ultra marathon. It's called the golden hour. So usually during the golden hour,
not to be confused with golden shower.
Especially on the 100-mile and farther distance races, everyone comes and shows up to watch the last people come in. Those people have been out there the longest. There's a race in Colorado called Hard Rock, and it's got a 48-hour cutoff. So if you could imagine being out there for 47 hours, coming back into town, and the whole town is waiting for you to come back and finish your journey, is pretty amazing. And Justin and I were both like, well, we just want adventure people. So we tried with, the hunters, the bronc rider, other people, but both of us being ultra runners, once we started putting episodes out, we just kind of got a little traction with the runners. So our first thing was just featuring, people doing cool stuff, but now we're more of a running. I mean, we had a guy on that beat cancer, runs with a colostomy bag, and still races. And the guy's a beast. Like
100-milers, like big races.
So-
like, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. We have a guest coming on next week that she's a adaptive athlete. So she's in a wheelchair, but nothing stops her. She skis. She backpacks. Like she's got one of those wheelchairs with I don't even know what they call it, but she can pull the levers and her wheelchair will go. And she got like big old 29 knobby tires on it, and the stuff she can't go up, people will pull her wheelchair up so she can go backpack with them. So we want to hear about people's story because, like Justin was saying, everyone's got a story and everyone's different. And where it's gone is unbelievable, really. From the time we sat down and recorded our intro in Justin's kitchen as we were drinking beer, and now I don't drink anymore.
I think our first episode we even did
an
like
amazing adventure.
we were like, what kind of beer are we drinking?
yeah.
That's dope. I think my episode is dropping tomorrow for you guys, so I'm excited to listen to that too. You also have one of my buddies, I think, coming on. I think you guys are gonna. He is an absolute riot, so you're gonna love having him on. He actually just finished his first Ironman last year too, so he actually likes running, unlike me. So he'll like that.
I think he's next week. I think he's next Sunday.
Hell yeah. Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on, talking. It was a great episode, and I loved hearing about anything that's inspiring or anything wellness and health based, like running 100 fucking miles. I think it's super awesome what you guys are doing, especially with the podcast too. Is there anything that you wanted to tell anybody out there, my listeners, about maybe pushing their limits and any advice on how to do that?
I'll say the human body is an amazing tool, put it that way. If you don't think you can do it, you can. With any type of, movement activity, you put in the effort, the work, the consistency, and you can do it. That's what I've learned through a lot of my stuff, especially ultra running. We always get the 100 miles. I don't even like to drive that far. I would rather run it than drive it, to tell you the truth. Get to see a lot more and a lot more stuff to deal with. But what it's really taught me is that I can do anything that I put my mind out to do. I may not have the funnest time the whole time, but you learn a hell of a lot about yourself when you do accomplish that. A longer distance, even, doesn't matter what the sport is, if you don't push yourself and just stay comfortable, you're not going to grow. And sometimes you have to step out and push yourself to see the benefits of that. Yeah, you may not like it at the time when you're doing it, but you keep doing it and you'll see some growth. I think mentally, physically, and then you'll start to set up some more goals and become more driven and keep pushing harder.
Dope.
I think a ultramarathon, because that's what I know, is 50% physical and 90% mental. So you can do the math on that one. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's a mental game, making your mind strong by going out and doing crazy things. Keeps your mind strong when everyday crap comes up, it's like, whatever, we'll get through it. Go build some character.
Hell yeah. Go build some fucking character. I love it. Well, with that, you heard it, folks. Go build some fucking character, and appreciate y'all listening. You know the drill. Stay up and feel free.